Ever feel like getting back out there is just too much? Maybe you're not sure if you're ready to date at all. Maybe you're tired of playing the dating game. If meeting someone new leaves you tense and guarded, you're not broken. You're simply worn out from the push-pull of the last avoidant relationship. My name is Alexis Friedlander. I'm a certified therapist. Online they call me the avoidant therapist because I turn attachment theory into real-life tools you can actually use. Stay with me. In this video, I will share with you everything you need to know to get the right relationship. So first of all, a quick reality check, because sometimes we are very hard on ourselves. We have those negative self-talk about, I will never find anyone, I'm bad at a relationship. You're not broken. It's just very hard to reconstruct yourself after a difficult breakup. What you have to understand is that the people you'll meet are not just another version of your ex. They are new, fundamentally different people. And obviously, it's not a perfect science, and I talked about the dating game. The idea here is to explore, to be curious. It's not about the perfect dates, but it's about gathering data. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. It's the idea of, okay, I'm out there. I'm trying things out. I know the first date, I know the first person I'll meet will probably not be the right one. Rather than being like, this date has to be the one. No, you're just testing things out. You're just going with the flow, but also protecting yourself. And this is the two elements we need to look and be careful about. And that's what I'm going to share with you later in this video. So first of all, why you feel so wobbly? The thing is, your nervous system is being primed by this relationship, by this breakup, and you expect unconsciously this push-pull dynamic. If you haven't done the work and you still feel anxious, there's an element of you who will still be attracted to this inconsistency. I've made a lot of videos on this, but it's important to reflect on this element of I'm attracted to something that is familiar, not healthy, but familiar. So now what you're going to do, if you start dating, you're going to be hyper-vigilant for space, hyper-vigilant for those things. The challenge is to tune down the critics about what if this happens again. Because you always have the choice to say no. You always have the choice to establish the right set of boundaries to help you find the right relationship. So the point is not necessarily about being in love, falling in love. It's about selecting the right partner. That's one of the biggest difference between someone who has an anxious attachment style and someone who has a secure attachment style. The person with a secure attachment style will say no to certain types of partner because they know deep inside it's not right for them. And that's probably the first thing you need to recognize as well is, okay, I know I was hurt. I know I don't want this, but it doesn't have to be the same relationship. You can decide. And I want you to feel empowered that right now, maybe you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. No. You can find the right partner. I don't have any clients who never found love after a breakup. The question is really about the story you're telling yourself. And so there's an element of nervous system. There's an element of expectation of the push-pull, an element of familiarity that you need to be aware of and filtering in and out what's working for you and what's not working for you. And when people are not ready to start dating, it's because maybe it's too soon. And it's fine to take your time. You don't have to rush dating. And actually, it's actually a bad idea to start dating right after a breakup. So I would suggest, if you recently broke up with your partner, at least wait 30 days, 2 months, 3 months, where you're focusing on your life, on your friends, on your hobbies, on your work probably. Making sure that you have the right emotional regulation tools in place, that you sleep well, that you eat well, that you feel energized. And it takes a bit of time to do this work. Sometimes people take up to 6 months to get back on their feet. And there's nothing wrong in taking time. The point is also being quite strategic, goal-oriented. When it happens, a lot of people, they feel, I broke up with this person, and they don't treat themselves the way they should. One thing you should start to visualize is, how would I treat my best friend if I was in my situation? What would I do with them? What would I suggest them to do? And sometimes we are very hard on ourselves and we don't allow ourselves to treat ourselves. So right now it's really detoxing. You need some time on your own. You need some time with your friends. You need some time at work, doing things that you can control, doing things that makes you feel alive before dating. It's very important, because otherwise you'll end up in rebound relationship that are driven by this idea of like, I need validation, I need someone to make me feel alive. No, and that's the problem, is that you're going to end up in this dynamic of asking the other, getting the approval, feeling that you're only valuable if someone tells you so. That's not how it works. So again, we start fresh. That's a new chapter. That's a new page. And I want you to write this new chapter on terms that are in line with what you need, not what necessarily attracts you, what you need. That's very important. And that's why you need to erase the old stories, the old narratives, and rewrite your own story. Remove the I attract avoidant, I'm not lucky in love, I'll always end up with the bad people. With this idea of, no, I mean, you're watching this video, you're doing the work. I recognize red flags. I know what works for me. And if you're not confident in that stage, it means like, okay, that's the gap. That's something you need to work on. And that's what I do with my clients, is I coach them and I help them to recognize the red flags. I have a specific program for people who are in that phase of dating. And if you're interested, have a look in the description to book a call with me. The point here is like, yeah, maybe you don't know what's the right thing. Maybe you have a hard time trusting your judgment, and it's fine, because it's something you need to learn. You have to unlearn a lot of things, and you have to learn new things. The thing is, it's important to be clear on this before dating, because otherwise those patterns, those unconscious drivers, guess what? Same input will provide the same output if you don't change things. So it's important to recognize, why am I attracted to these people? There's a specific tool, and actually I'll put it in the description for free. There's a tool, I call this the relationship inventory tool. It's really understanding the drivers of your decision when it comes to finding or falling in love, actually. Because we think it's a decision, but it's very much unconscious. And by having this analytical, again, we're gathering data, analytical view on our relationship decisions, we understand the drivers. We understand and also be able to distance yourself from those. Because maybe that's not healthy. Maybe if you feel like, I've always ended up in relationships that didn't work for me, let's change this right now. So you have to do a bit of work before you start dating. And then you can also, what I like to do is, as you date, then you have real data. So for instance, I had a client, she's really into like very masculine men, very strong men, independent, etc. And I have nothing against that type of man. But it seems that it didn't work out for her, because basically they were not committed. And so she dated someone who was doing kickboxing or something like that. Very manly, very strong, etc. And she was attracted to him. There's nothing wrong in being attracted to this man. But then I asked, and we analyzed together, so what is the relationship with this person? What is he offering? And very quickly, she realized he was not into any form of committed relationship. He didn't want to develop the relationship. I think they're still, they don't live in the same city, and he was fine with that. And there was no pressure in them settling in or having a relationship, basically. And this is where she realized, like, hold on, there's a discrepancy between the attractivity, what I feel is the right partner, and actually what I need and what I want. Interestingly enough, these are almost two different parts of the brain playing here. The point is to realign what you need. And this idea, and kill, in that sense, is really destroying this idea of like, I need a strong, in this case, I'm not saying it's not right for you, I need strong men to be happy in my relationship. So there are elements, and again, I don't want to get into too much detail on what we've done together, but there's a story built in childhood about this idea of, I need that strong man, I'm attracted to those strong men. It's not bad in itself, it's just filtering in and out what's right. What's your definition of strong man? Is it someone independent, strong, perceived strength, or actually someone who fights for its spouse, his spouse, who shows up, who's not scared of having difficult conversations? That's also a strong man. And so it's important to, again, challenge how we make decisions and use potentially the first few dates as a way for you to challenge how you do things. And then it's about the green flags. I'm going to talk about the red flags, but the green flags is about, you know what you don't want, right? You've done the work. And now you can assess what you need. Someone where you communicate easily. You don't have to fight, you don't have to pace yourself. They reply when you message them. And also realizing, especially if you have an anxious attachment style, actually, I like this consistency, because you don't want to play games anymore, right? When you have an anxious attachment style, there's always this element of like, unconsciously you love the inconsistency, you love the drama. No, that's not what you need right now. That's not what you want right now. Also, an importance around accountability. Whenever they say something wrong, whenever they hurt you, then apologize. You will never find a partner who never makes mistakes, okay? The point is, how can we repair the mistakes? Successful couples are not the ones who never make mistakes, are the ones who are the best at repairing those mistakes. How quickly, how empathetic, how genuine there, and also strategic in how they repair the mistakes. You also need someone who's curious, because this person will fundamentally be different than you. And if you're not curious, I call that pragmatic empathy. If you're not curious about the other, if you're not curious about yourself, you will never be able to connect at a deeper level. And if you can't connect at a deeper level, there's no relationship, there's no foundation for this relationship. And also, last but not least, it's about the future. Avoidant attached people, they have a hard time with commitment, which means that when you ask about the future, they have a hard time explaining or being sure or being clear. And so it's one thing you can assess, not early on, but at some stage, their view of the future, how confident, how comfortable they are with that element of future in the relationship. That doesn't mean that first date, we know, what are you going to do in the next 5 years? You know, it's really going with the flow, and I'm going to explain that in a second. But it's important to assess those probably 4 green flags. It's not like you need to have those red flags, those signs early on, but also consistent. Let's talk about the first date, which I think sometimes people make a big fuss about, especially, of course, after a breakup. It's very hard to bounce back, and the first date is something important, but it's not. At this stage, that first date is just for me, to gather data. It doesn't have to be the one. Think of it as when you interview people for a job, you don't interview one person and hire the first person you meet, right? Maybe you will, but it's a process where you need to see a lot of people, to benchmark them, to see how you feel about them. And in the sense of the context of dating, asking yourself whether you felt yourself in this date, whether you felt different than in previous relationship, whether you felt secure. That's the only thing that matters. You're just gathering data. Probably not the perfect partner. Probably not and actually, what's interesting, even if its date is awful, it's a way for you to learn, okay, that's not what I want. And maybe if the date is awful, you can find things that you liked. And again, we're looking at, you can use the tool of the relationship inventory to analyze as well the pattern that you see in those dates. So just to manage your expectations, the first date after a breakup is usually awful, right? You'll be disappointed. Just accept it. Okay, it's fine. It's part of the process. The point is like, okay, this is something I don't want. Some of it I like, some of it I don't like. And we make iteration. That's very important. And I think what I'm saying here, what I'm mentioning here is true for any other dates. You need to assess how you feel, etc., etc. And that's why after each date, I think it's a good habit to see how you feel in your body. You feel tense? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel happy? Butterflies in the belly? Careful of the butterflies in the belly, actually, because they're not necessarily the right signal. Maybe you're replaying the date, you're thinking about your ex. Again, all of that is important and is useful. Okay, the point is we gather data, we try to understand, and we base or make decisions based on that. Maybe if you're analytical like me, you can even write pros and cons, right? Trying to analyze the red flags. That's what I do with my clients. For me to download all that data and again, draw the perfect, not the perfect, but draw what would be the right relationship, the right partner at this stage. And now the red flags you need to spot to dismiss the dismissive avoidant, the bad relationship when you can see they are telling you something like that. The future, it's always vague. The affection seems like transactional. They are only affectionate when you disappear, when you're not around, because they need you to get a form of reassurance or validation. Okay, it's very important to assess this because that's not going to work for you. You've suffered enough in the past. You don't want this. I'm here to help you out, figuring out. Again, I used to be dismissive avoidant. There's nothing wrong in being dismissive avoidant, but if that person is not doing anything, especially early on, that's not the right partner for you. And it's also about building that secure momentum. Right now, it's not about my priority is dating. No, it's one aspect of your life. Yes, you're going to enjoy, maybe you don't going to enjoy, but you're going to have like those date nights, but you need to also have date nights for yourself, with your friends. That's how you balance attachment system. Because the problem is that when you have insecurity, when you attach your value to the love that you get from your partners, then what's left of your life when you're not dating? And I don't want you to, because sometimes people are dating junkie. They are dates every single night. That's not healthy either. It's like finding the right balance. Now, the other element as well, if you want to have that secure outlook on dating, is step by step. I know it's hard to achieve, but when you start dating someone, don't project right away into the future. Don't assume that what you have right now is what you will have for the rest of your life or the next 6 months. That's why dating is about few dates, few months, and make the relationship evolve over time. A 6 months relationship is a 6 months relationship. What I mean by that, a 6 months relationship is just the start of a story. You can't make necessarily plans assuming that the next 6 years will be like that. Of course, you have enough elements to know that you're compatible, that you get along, that you have chemistry, that you share the same values, etc. But, as you know well enough, when you have a different attachment style, this is also where things can be complicated down the line. So it's assessing as well that element of growth, that element of consistency. And the consistency is something that you assess over time, and you have to go through different milestones. I don't remember which studies, but it's been shown that you should never, ever, ever, and again, sorry if that happened to you, get married to someone you met after just a year, because a year is not enough time to really assess that over time, because marriage is like for life, that relationship will be working out. It's not so much only about compatibility. And if you feel it can't be yourself, if you feel it's different, that doesn't mean that you have to let go. Start reflecting. Maybe it's something you need to address. Maybe it's something you need to discuss. And it's better to discuss this early on with the partner. So there are ways of communicating effectively without pressuring the person, without triggering the person, in order for you to be aligned, right? Especially early on, if you are not aligned with your partner, if you feel there's a lot of friction early on, that's not healthy. And sometimes it's just a question of, okay, let's just sink in, just let's discuss things out, let's just clear the air, and things can go back on track and be stronger than ever. Dating after hurt is a rehab. It's not a race. It might take some time, and actually it's better if it takes some time, because you want to be confident that this process is something you chose, that this person is someone you chose, that you've done the work, that you know well enough what are your non-negotiables, that you learn how to establish the right set of boundaries. Yes, you're optimistic, yes, you're hopeful, yes, you want to be in a relationship, but it's not at all cost. Because right now it's not about choosing a relationship, it's choosing a partner who consistently choose me. Because at the end of the day, you have to choose you all the time. See you next time. Take care.